Hello and welcome. I'm Tina Huggins, and this is Joe Huggins. And I'm a certified divorce coach and a certified restorative family mediator. And this is our show, Awakenings. We've created this channel just for you. So today's topic is about anxiety and decisions. So as we go through thinking about the decisions, sometimes just through our regular life, we'll find that we're dealing with anxiety. In the course with today, we chose anxiety because this is actually the first time that Joe has done a show like this. So he had anxiety about thinking about it coming into this and preparing for this. So can you hand me my paper over there? Thank you. So I want to read to you the Google's definition of anxiety. So intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday decisions. The side or the things that you might be affected by when you're dealing with anxiety are fast heart rate, rapid breathing, sweating, and feeling tired may occur. So I was an EMT, and I can tell you those are the exact same symptoms of a heart attack. So that's not something to take lightly or to think it's not important. So don't ever just think that it's not a heart attack. Always take care of yourself and respond as if it might be. So you'll seek professional help. So then the definition of worry is allow one's mind to dwell on difficult or troubles. So this is when you just think about these things over and over, thinking about how is things going to look or what are they going to say? When you think about those, it puts you from worry and can take you into anxiety. So, Joe, we've talked and you said that you've dealt with anxiety. So tell me, what are kind of the things that you feel when you are going through the anxiety?
Kind of like what I'm going through a little bit now. This is minute. Well, I'm going to say it's minute. It could get worse. But so not being clear in thought, I would say, because your brain's going, what about this? What about that? What about this? Instead of going, hey, you could actually have a good comment, instead of worry. So, quit worrying. So how do you feel? Sometimes I'm going to say dry mouth. That's part of it. Anxiety. Breathing, shallow breathing. Yeah, tiredness. You could get exhausted. So.
And I've seen you go through that. It's interesting that you say tiredness because it's like light bulb goes on because, oh yeah, because right after a situation, you always sat down and was asleep right away.
Mm-hmm. It takes a lot out of you.
So for me, I don't really think that for the most part that I've dealt with anxiety myself, but I have dealt with worry, and that worry can almost come close to what I've watched Joe go through with his anxiety stuff. And I have seen so many of my clients go through the anxiety aspect. That's one of the reasons why we're talking about it today. So Joe, how have you dealt with the anxiety in the past?
In the past, multiple ways. I'm going to say before I understood the anxiety and I was just going through it and I was just stressed out beyond, I'd punish myself because I felt like I didn't add up. So this is the part where you want to swear and say, I beat the blank out of myself, which I did. I'm going to say physically, mentally, with work. It's just like, you know what, if you're not in severe pain from work, you're not doing enough, and I think the light bulb went on when I mentioned to somebody, if somebody made me work as much as I made myself work, I'd kill them. but here I'm doing it to myself. And yeah, I felt like I was killing myself through punishment of, you know, I'm going to say work. That's what I knew.
And I've heard you say that a lot of times. And so I can understand, we talk about what you've been through as opposed to what I've been through on the same thing with anxiety aspects. And I've seen you go through a lot more intense episodes. So for me, like I said, I haven't dealt with really anxiety, but mine has been in the form of worry. And so for me, it was, I had to teach myself how to stop ruminating. That is talking in your head about things over and over, about how bad I did or how things didn't look right or I didn't do a good job. And that's all past thinking there. So the past thinking then sets me up for, I don't want to go through this, so I don't get outside of my box and I don't experience things. So I've done a lot of work to get me out of there. So what's been your biggest source of anxiety?
I'm going to say my environment when I was a little kid. You're born into an environment of whatever that looks like. I felt like I was, now looking back then, you just went through life because that's what the cards you got dealt, and that's how you do life, and you don't question it. Usually when you're a little kid, I couldn't imagine doing that. But as you get older, you're an adult and you're in the same age bracket. I'm 60 now, so then I'm like, gosh, my dad was 60 not too long ago. So I kind of lost my train of thought.
So when you start talking, go through that. So you were talking about the anxiety that you experienced as a child, and then of course you got off on your dad, and we've talked about how he was an anxious person.
Very anxious. So, and that travels down through your kids, and I think the first time I realized that is when I was watching a show about lions in Africa, and the male lion, if he's in a bad mood, it affects the rest of the tribe. If he's anxious, it affects the cubs. In fact, the cubs could get eaten. So, but anyways, it was just a lot of stress, and I look back on all the anxiety and stress my dad showed, and it was just it was a scary thing to be on high alert almost 24/7.
Yeah.
So I'd say it stems back from my dad, and I'm not blaming, I'm just figuring it out. So my dad and I had a great relationship as far as all kinds of stuff, and he was a great guy. He passed away about 5 years ago, and so I'm not here to put anybody down. I'm just trying to be aware for myself, and I know I've had my flaws, and I'm sure I still do, and some of my kids could point it out, so we might have them on the show next for about 5 seconds.
Okay, so before I answer that, we want to take a quick break for our sponsors. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. I want to share with you a professional products and services directory we call Going Solo Directory, and you need to check this out. If you want exposure to your business or are seeking professional product or services, this directory has it all. And that membership, for the many special features, you get the benefit of a worldwide exposure with a 40-minute video interview on an international business show showcase. All this for just one low annual fee. For more information, contact goingsolodirectory.com.
Okay, so thank you for joining us again. So we were talking about what's been the biggest source of anxiety. So my biggest source has actually been finances, money. In my life, I will always say that I came from a poor rich family or a rich poor family. My dad always had money. He had, money in his pocket, his wallet all the time. And then my mom, I remember hearing my grandparents talk about my mom and her charging on the credit cards. And she did. She charged at Christmas, and then she charged again. She charged on the card again when it was time for us to go to school. So she'd go get our clothes and our school supplies and stuff and charge that. And then she'd take the whole year to pay those two amounts of charging off. And I could just remember hearing how bad she was and everything. And then years later, I found out that my mom was living on $300. She was running a whole household on $300 50 plus years ago. And then she later on, like 30 years ago, she ended up having $500 or so to run the family on. And that was not just what she was running the family on, that's what she was also paying off those credit cards with. So I learned, money just stressed me out. So that was my biggest aspect there. And that caused problems even with Joe and I when we first got started, because he asked me about my personal finances, something that you really do truly need to talk about before you get married. But because I knew he was really great with his finances and I never thought I was that great, it was important for me to partner up with somebody who was great, because I did think that I thought right, I just couldn't spend right. And that was what was going through my head. So we had conversations early on, and he'd ask personal questions and I kind of would lose it. And those were our really only major issues as we came into a solid relationship. And so it's been a course of time, just like Joe said, of dealing with things and figuring things out, to where now we talk about finances all the time. We kind of have to. We take part. I own a flooring store in northern Colorado. We're currently in Arkansas. So I have this business and I have that business. And then of course I have my own finances, and Joe has his own finances. We've kept that separate. But now it's much easier for us to communicate about those finances because of the work that I've done and you've done with your anxiety. So why do you think the stuff with your dad caused the anxiety?
Why do I think? Because that's one of your parents, and so a lot of it's caught instead of like, hey son, let me teach you how to be stressed, instead of taught. So you're part of the environment, so it's hard not to be affected. So as that was a daily occurrence, is to have a lot of stress. So that's why.
Yeah, you've talked about that. And then you've talked about after you were an adult and you moved away because your hometown was in Ohio, and then you moved to Colorado, and then you even dealt with anxiety with thinking about going in or going back to family functions because of that.
Yeah, the dynamics and that kind of stuff. And it's hard to get rid of the skeletons in your closet when that was daily event in your life. It's hard to shake. And at what year in your life do the lights come on? Is it 50? Is it 60? Is it back when I think it's a slow process.
Yeah. And the stuff with my mom and dad, finances, I was something probably none of my family knew, but my dad and my grandfather would talk business at the kitchen table. So I would sit at the door to my bedroom and just listen to them talk about business and the issues with my mom's credit card and And then years later, my grandfather actually put two and two together and figured out that the money that he was giving my father wasn't making it to our household. He didn't know until he asked how much money mom had that she was living on. And it kind of blew my grandfather out of the water to think that she had done so well with her finances. So as a kid, I would think that my dad was this guru with money because he always had money in his wallet, and my mom has to suck with money, right? Because she never has any money and she's charging on credit cards. And then they divorced. And the truth of the matter is my mom's credit score was like almost 850 when she went to purchase her second home on her own. And nobody had ever seen a credit score that high. She had done so well with putting herself through college and then going to work for the government. And my dad had all this farm that was worth lots and lots of money. And then here he is towards the end of his life, and he's without much of that money now. So it was a learning experience for me to go through that. And so my current anxieties or stressors, worries that I've had with money, I actually took care of over the course, or I can say I'm continuing to take care of those kinds of things. So, Joe, what kinds of suggestions would you make for people that are dealing with anxiety or severe worry? What did you do?
What did I do? What helped me is exercise. So that helps clear your mind. I tried the work route way. It's a good way to bury yourself. Clear your mind, probably not. So I tried the work way. It just you just avoid the stress with work. So it's not normally a health benefit to just bury yourself in work. Can't imagine that. So I would say exercise, get out of your smaller box and broaden that, and new friendships. And I just really love the training circuit that I was in. And, we'd have 10, 12, 15 people in each class. And I'm not a person that likes that kind of, I didn't think I'd like it because I never tried it. I just thought, well, that's not for me. But once I joined, I was pretty much addicted. So I'd say that helped tremendously. And then you realize, wow, these people actually like me, and, and I can show up to class. And when I first started working out, I was at the lower bottom in fit, and being in fit. But I gave it everything I had. And I remember the first week, I'd be laying on the court floor on my back, and the instructor would say, "Joe, are you okay?" And but after a while, you just keep showing up. And before you know it, I'm going to say second in class. Being first in class is really hard to do. But anyways, just keep showing up and keep giving it everything you got, and it'll get better. So
an exercise is a great way to do that. Therapy is also another great way. And there are some wonderful coaches out there that can help coach you through things. That's what I've been doing. Something else is meditation. You can Google meditation, and one of my favorite gurus on meditation is Dr. Joe Dispenza. You can look him up on YouTube. Great. He's got a great background in hypnosis, and that's one of the reasons why I like some of his meditations. And then the other thing is that you can do breath work or yoga breath work. And I do one where I'm breathing in 5 times, and then I breathe out, or I hold it for a count of 20, and then I breathe out for a count of 10. That's a yoga breath work, and there's tons of them out there. So you can look those up on Google themselves, a breath work. And then if you are not sure you're dealing with anxiety, or if you're having problems, I ask that you please seek medical help. and look for professional help to help you deal with that. And if the doctor gives you a clean bill of health, then seeking out therapy or talking with a coach that deals with that are great ways to handle things. And if you are in a point of pain through the anxiety, no matter what's caused it, please call 911 and get professional help. We never know whether it's anxiety or whether it's an actual heart attack. So that brings us to the end of today, and I want to thank you for joining Joe and I, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.